kasi you're dealing with multiple departments, makeup, hair, costume, as well as sets and then props. Tapos there's a whole, parang aside from the storytelling of the director, you're of course, the job is to support the vision of the director, but then also you're trying to help the film to tell the story in terms of just visuals like color or kwento, how a character develops, how the journey of a character progresses throughout the movie through their look. So yun siya. Basically, it's just the visual aspect,
Right.
physical onset
Right.
of the film.
So in the Philippine setting, no, Philippine cinema, napapansin ko na hindi masyadong distinct yung yung aspect ng costume design, sa hair and makeup, sa production design. Kasama ba ito lahat sa kasa ng Pilipinas?
Depende kasi sa production designer din. Technically, should be, all those departments are under the production designer. Pero kasi, in our setup, na especially for a very star-driven project, they come in with their own stylist, with their own hair and makeup. And usually, na hindi rin kasi maiwasan because of how generally low budget our films are, the actors are forced to bring their own clothes. Kasi hindi naman kayang i-provide palagi. Except syempre, I mean, we try, we would provide some stuff and then they're also asked to bring their own stuff. So inevitably, sometimes it becomes a little wishy-washy. Pag rushed na rin yung production. So it's hard to come up with the progression of film of yung look ng actress. I mean, minsan nagiging trabaho na lang siya ng continuity to check na parang okay pa ba yan? It's more on continuity na lang siya na tama ba ito ba yung hair niya with this scene na nangyari on the same yun, as opposed to thinking about does this look serve the character? Ito ba yung isusuot niya for this scene? Or ito ba yung look that would make her look more like the character that she's trying to be for a scene? Mga ganon.
That's really interesting. Isa pang question ko, difference between art direction and production design.
Well, originally, before Gone with the Wind, it was only really the art director. But with how the production designer of Gone with the Wind did the whole movie, parang they felt there should be a bigger title above an art director, which is a designer who designs the whole look of the production. Kasi, so right now, the hierarchy has become, you have a production designer and an art director. And the art director's job has become more of executing the vision of the production designer. So from sourcing stuff, make sure the timeline is followed. Medyo naging a little logistical yung trabaho ng art director. At the same time, artistic pa rin siya. Pero more on, okay, nandiyan na ba yung saan natin huhugutin tong telang kailangan for whatever, you know.
Okay, all right. And then, isa pang napansin ko sa category ng Oscars is merong set decorator ba? Set decorator?
Yes.
Oo. Separate role ba yon sa kasa natin?
Oo. Yun yung top 3 people in the production design teams. You have the production designer, you have the art director, and the set decorator. The art director is more the top person who's really directly involved in executing the vision of the design. And then your set decorator is really more taking care of set design. Kasi yung art director would be dealing also with the props. Making sure na double checking that all the props, the sets, parang all the requirements for the film are there. Mas trabaho siya ng art director. Yung set decorator is more parang parang ano siya, kanang kamay ng art director, pero more on really getting all the, usually ang joke dyan yung mga cortina, ganyan,
Yeah.
flowers.
I
Pero
see.
syempre, of course, it goes beyond that.
Right. And then, meron bang mga nadi-dispense na mga roles na ito depende sa budget ng pelikula?
Well, if we're talking Rabid,
Yeah.
yes.
I see.
Pero Rabid kasi is a super special, super unusual circumstance kind of a project. We were really, we shot this in the middle of lockdown, as in,
Yeah.
October 2020. So mahigpit pa.
Oh,
And then we
okay.
shot it in Baguio. Kami yung unang nag-shoot in Baguio ever
Wow.
during pandemic. So we really had to stick to protocol, and syempre a protocol at the time parang 10% lang of ano. So I think I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure we were under 20 lang the total staff.
Wow.
Oh, so ano siya talaga, super tulungan style.
Right.
So for that, wala akong part. Ang team ko was the makeup artist slash prosthetics, and then assistant niya na does hair, pero ended up becoming parang my set decorator, and then the production manager and the location manager would help me also set up. So ang only people who were strictly art department people were me, and then the carpenters I would hire pag meron lang ako kailangan i-construct.
Wow.
So,
That's really some interesting story, because knowing the kind of look that was achieved for the 4 segments in Rabid, no, mas lalo tuloy akong napahanga na ganun ka skeletal yung crew na behind the visual design. Sige, let's talk about Rabid. When you learned that you were gonna design the film, gaano katagal yung process ng pag-come up ng design sa 4 na segments na yun? Mabilis lang ba or pinag-aralan mo talaga ng matagal?
Well, if I remember the timeline correctly, we started pre-production August. I think I got a call around July. So I think we started our first meeting super purely via Zoom lang. August, so we would do, I think we did 3 rounds of read through with the core staff, just with Direk Eric discussing his ideas for the film, and I would throw ideas also. And then from there, I had to come up with a deck of the look for each of the episodes.
Yeah.
So yun, so I presented that to him, and then he had his own idea. So parang we tweaked that for a little bit. So parang I think I only did like 1 or 2 passes on the deck. And then of course, syempre, completely different story yung actual shoot. Kasi I think I only had less than a month to prepare for the props at lahat ng kailangang iakyat na gamit. Kasi I'm based in Baguio, pero at the time I went down to Manila kasi nga yung mga gamit, since super small budget kami, I had to recycle stuff from the warehouse na ng Reality.
Okay.
Reality Entertainment. So I just took whatever I could from there, and then I have luckily I have a very good friend who was my art director also for other projects. Na he has a warehouse na ang usual na trabaho niya kasi is prosthetics, pero he used to be an art director also, very good art director. So, yung warehouse niya, ang daming tambak doon. So, sabi niya sa akin, sige, kuha ka na lang ng kahit ano dyan. So, ginawa namin lahat ng mga requirements ko within 2 weeks. Probably less. Halos doon na ako tumira sa warehouse niya just so we could finish. And then, so we packed everything in, I think, 2 FB vans and then brought them up sa Baguio.
Nice. So diba nung naghahakot ka ng gamit sa warehouse, alam mo na yung kakailanganin for the 4 episodes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then when you arrived in Baguio, paano ba yon? Gagawin niyo muna yung set before mag-start yung production or sabay niyong gagawin?
Pag usual na project, you have you parang before you actually go full blast into production, may nakapag location hunt na kayo, nakapag set check, oculars. For us, I only had a day or two in advance of Direct Eric before he came up, and we went through all of the locations na nagagamitin namin. Kasi since pandemic nga, super pandemic, yung pagdating nila dito ng Baguio, wala na. Crunch time na. I think we only had 5 days, and then first day shoot na kami kaagad. So what ended up happening was, the choices for the locations was very critical. Luckily, we had a very good production manager, si Alvin and si Itoy. They already know na gahol kami sa oras, kulang kami sa tao. So the houses needed to have at least some furnishings. Pero
yeah.
I mean, with Direk Eric kasi you can't expect na parang he would pick the house that has parang the most gamit. He picked actually a few of the houses na parang direct kailangan ko lagyan ng gamit yan. So there was the house for ano na to? Kami lang ba pwedeng malasin?
Yeah.
That was a transient house. So they had some stuff in it, pero very bare. So I had to bring in dining tables, couches, yung curtains, had to change all of that, the office setup. So yun yung first na day ng shoot namin eh. So I had a day and a half just to set up the whole house. And ang style namin nun, parang si Direk Eric, mga first days pa namin, ano pa siya, parang sige, anong pwede kong gupitin dyan? Kasi nga, kami lang din yung art director. So, so I remember yung assistant director namin was the one who did the signage of yung Lola, yung malaking signage.
Yeah.
That was made by our assistant director. Yung bakya ni Lola, kasi I was making that down to the last second bago siya kailangan for camera. So yung cinematographer namin helped me finish the left shoe. So it ended up being a little uneven for that scene, which kind of helped kasi at least you're walking weirdly with it. So ayun.
That's really a fun behind the scenes story. So that was the first episode, no? Kami lang ba pwedeng malasin. Ilang araw yung shoot na yon sa episode na yon?
Oof. I'm not sure anymore. I think 3-4 days.
Okay.
Yes, 3 days. I think 3 days.
All right, and then actors lang yung mawawala. The whole crew would stay, right, for the next.
Yes.
Ganon din ba yung sequence ng pag-shoot sa sequence ng palabas?
Hindi. Depende kay Direk Eric. Ang process niya kasi is either as much as possible should be according to the timeline of the story. Kasi syempre it helps the actors also. Pero pag hindi, then wala. Syempre tumbling. So parang for the assistant director, pag pinibreakdown niya yun, ang dami niya kailangan i-juggle. Syempre time also for me to set up yun yung mga things na kailangan niya i-organize. Kunyari, I think we made sure na yung first day was mainly the first floor kasi I was still kind of finishing up some stuff sa taas. Or parang the other room with the office, I think I didn't finish until the actual day that we had to do that. So ayun, parang kailangan din siyang i-weave into the schedule yung how doable it is for production design to get the set up.
Right. For iba pa din ang karne, anong naging story mo doon?
We had to we had to pack up. I think we were supposed to shoot on a day na according to the schedule, pero hindi ko kaya kasi I had to set up the whole cave.
Yeah.
ano kami nun, syempre pandemic, so hindi naman pwedeng how production usually goes na tuhog-tuhog. So pagod na kami. Ano na yun I think probably that was already the third episode we were doing. When we, I think that was the third episode that we shot.
Okay.
So I managed, they were able to give me an extra day to set it up. And oh my God, I have nightmares of setting that up. Kasi that location, we've already shot there before. That was also our location for
Yes.
that whole cave. So I'm familiar with the place. Pero ang hirap kasi we had to bring I had to set up a bed. I had to bring all these random knickknacks. I had to cover up kasi the part of the tunnels that we chose was actually an intersection. So that's actually middle maraming butas yun that I had to, yung main butas where they dance, behind them merong like a shelf of mga supposedly mga preserved na gulay. Yun yung I think yun isa sa mga mabigat na binitbit namin doon. Siyempre, it's always wet, it's always damp, dripping everywhere. Ang takot ko nun, kasi may konting trauma kami from shooting Honor Thy Father, may nakuryente.
Oh no!
Kasi we were doing a pool. Ang production designer namin at the time, si Erickson, he did a pool. And then, syempre, trying to light up the whole place. Syempre, nagkakabit ng ilaw. Somehow, I think may isang bumagsak na kable na apakan ng isang art department person. So, may nakuryente. Okay naman, wala na nangyari. Pero, may konti akong ganung fear kasi sa gitna nun, meron akong disco ball and then, syempre, may lights. Tapos, syempre, si Neil, yung cinematographer namin, had to figure out where to set up lights and things.
Yeah.
Yun nga. So, since basa siya palagi at malamig, yun.
So malinaw ba from the very start na cave talaga yung location? Hindi pwedeng dayain yung cave?
Ang options before that, if I remember right, was parang ang whole idea lang naman kasi for the character nung guy was he's had to survive. He's had to be very handy, very Bear Grylls ang idea sa kanya. So I think we started with the idea na baka he has a camper van or parang he set up somewhere in a small shack in the middle of the forest, whatever. Pero eventually, I think Eric just really wanted a very visual look. Kung ano man yan. So I tried to present him multiple ideas. Pero ang hirap lang niya execute din kasi also, puro na kami bahay. So maganda sana siya either it could be at the backdrop of a forest or napunta kami lagyan na natin sa kuweba.
That's nice. And then Shit Happens was the third episode that was screened.
Yes.
It wasn't a hospital, right?
Yes,
the location,
Yes, we shot that in teachers camp, which is I don't know how to describe it. Ano siya marami kasi siyang buildings doon. Nung time na nag-shoot kami doon, it was also several buildings of that. Ano siya, isa malaking area siya dito sa Baguio.
Yeah.
Usually pag mga teachers events, whatever that's where they hold.
Yeah.
Tapos at the time, syempre pandemic, that's where they would bring people going in isolation for COVID positive. So, syempre parang ano lang kami, parang 3 buildings away sa kung saan may mga taong nakatirang trying to recover from COVID. So we had the whole building to ourselves. So I had to set it up in a medyo hospital. Kasi syempre ang requirement was a hospital, pero syempre COVID, so parang how can we fit in a hospital? So the other suggestion was we actually opted maybe we could shoot this not in Baguio kasi I think that somebody offered I think there was one of our producers had a good friend who was offering like a half unfinished na hotel. So at least maganda yung hallways. Pero kasi I think that was in Laguna. So syempre if we're shooting in Baguio, meron namang teachers camp, then why not? Kasi pwede naman siyang parang one of those probinsya
Yeah,
ish
yeah.
na hospitals. So yun, one of our problems there was hindi hindi kasya yung yung naka-wheelchair si Lola. Ano ba? Wheelchair, ano maalala. May
Yeah.
originally dapat naka-stretcher yun na so hindi kasya since the doors are not iba yung doors ng hospital eh.
Okay.
And yung one of the things na parang I was kind of trying to argue my way out of. Like, baka wag na lang tayo dito mag-shoot kasi hassle. Kasi ang doors ng hospital, hindi ganun.
Yes,
Diba, parang it was
yes.
just a normal door. But for hospital, ganun. Kasi parang direct wala akong budget para magpalit ng doors dito tsaka magsira. So, na-force siya na, sige, okay, wheelchair na nga lang.
And then for HM, of course, it was a house.
Yes.
Ano yung mga naging challenge mo doon in designing that episode?
That was the easiest to design a space kasi maganda na yung bahay. Maganda, may character na talaga yung bahay. I think it was built in the 50s. So what I only had to do really was parang more clutter siya that accumulated through the years. Kasi ang original na intent for that, for the house of for Princess was either a condo or a cramped apartment or like a small townhouse. Kaso nung nag-iikot kami ng mga locations, yung house for that was one of the options we had for kami lang ba pwede malasin. Pero kasi iba yung ugali ng house. Masyado siyang ano tawag dito, eclectic for the kind of for the family. Parang if we chose that house, we would have necessitated revisions to the kind of characters that they are. Even the design and the look of yung mga damit nila, yung mag-iiba talaga eh. So magiging sila medyo artsy-fartsy, parang you can imagine them na parang nagpa-pottery si mommy. So hindi sila ganun eh.
Yeah.
So they fell in love with that location sobra. And ako rin naman parang ganda nito. Parang paano ba natin gagawin to? It's the exact opposite of the original intent for it na cramped space. Yun, malaki siyang bahay and almost an ancestral house siya eh.
Yeah.
So parang nagkaroon na lang ng konting revision din with the story na parang what if this is the house na inherit niya lang from her dead husband. So and it's not the best place kasi may mga tumutulo na yun. Maganda siyang bahay pero luma na siya sobra. So for me, what I just had to do was reorganize it to make it look more parang the brain of Princess na cluttered, magulo, maraming cobwebs.
Right. Nakwento sa amin ni Michiko, one of the writers of Rabid, na yung last scene, kasi nasama siya sa best scenes namin, yung final scene of HM.
Okay.
Yung dinumog na siya.
Oh my God. Okay.
Oo. Tapos, kwento ni Michiko, instead of kare-kare, ang pinaluto daw ay menudo. Tama ba? Menudo yung, kasi hindi kumakain si Eric Mati ng kare-kare.
Ayaw niya kasi ng bagoong.
And then, sabi ni Michiko, napuno daw. Sorry, nagreklamo daw yung may-ari ng bahay kasi napuno daw ng brown sauce.
Oh my God. Hindi ko sana ikukwento yan kasi hindi ko sure kung parang how iffy. Pero since kinuwento na siya ni Michiko. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Kasi we did not, obviously there was a crowd there and pandemic siya. So parang we were very careful na they were all tested. Ganyan. And yung assistant director namin really had to talk to them about safety, ganyan. I remember yung makeup artist namin, parang may 2 floors kasi siya eh. Parang medyo mezzanine, parang multi-level kind of a house siya, pero parang not in a, straightforward sense. So galing siya sa baba kasi nandun yung standby area namin, dun yung mga gamit namin, dun yung mga kalakal namin as art deaf people. Umakyat siya. Nakita niya dun yung mga tapan siya. Ayoko na. Bumaba siya ulit. Kasi gulat kami na parang okay, medyo may may konti ka pang phobia na andyan ang daming tao. Tapos the scene was they're supposed to eat people and they were briefed really well and they were amazing that they really executed the scene beyond our expectation. As in, kahit kami natakot. Parang kami, hala! Kasi, ano talaga, sobrang tipid ako with the budget. So, I'm one of the cringe, I have a very, I'm very nahihiya with with HM actually, because some of the tubs you can see na parang konti na lang yung laman. Kasi tinitipid talaga namin kasi wala kaming, pag naubos yung food, wala na kaming budget. So so sobrang slim nga lang nung crew namin and even the
Yeah.
budget. Ang gumawa nung food props ko, yung catering din namin, which is a chef from Reality Entertainment, kasi sa pantry namin dati merong he cooks there for the staff. Anyway,
Okay.
so I just asked him to cook my food props, and syempre sobrang naka-budget yun. So yung kare-kare nauubos na. So yun, come to the menudo, tinitipid ko siya talaga. Parang okay, para lang to dun sa malaking crowd natin mamaya ha. And ayun nga, true enough, they made full use of every last bit and kumalat siya. We actually had to go back to that location kasi hindi kami natapos. So, nung binalikan namin siya, ang kwento nito si Neil, yung cinematographer namin, sabi niya, kasi may malaking table dun sa gitna, di ba? It's a very heavy, old, medyo antique na table. I think he had to move it, and then he put his hands under and tried to lift it. And pagtingin niya sa kami, parang sticky. Pagtingin niya, nudo pa.
Ay, natira pa.
Oo, kasi we really had to clean that up, the house. Na syempre sobrang hassle for our production managers, kasi sila yung naiwan to fix up the location, kasi syempre hindi naman pwedeng iwan mo na bad relationship with the owners. Pero yun nga, pag may naiwan pa din sa element. Nalinis naman na, I think. I think okay na yun.
Yeah. I was wondering kung part pa ba ng task mo as a production designer to ensure na yung nilutong menudo ay magmukha pa rin siyang kare-kare in terms of color. Part pa ba yun sa, yeah.
Oo. Actually, diba, since yung character ni Princess is hindi siya marunong magluto, ang hirap to make that come across in terms of food. So I really didn't know what to do with that. So I was giving instructions to our cook kung how I was explaining, parang kailangan to, si Kuya Nat, mahirap to, kailangan siya paano natin pagmumukhain ba yung kare-kare na hindi siya mukhang marunong magluto. Tapos sabi niya, wag na lang natin lagyan ng atsuete. So he was the one who came up with, kaya siya walang kulay. So, oo nga, okay, ganda. So,
nice.
So yun, one of the easy ways that we were able to make that visually seen. And I really couldn't come up with a way na, diba? I mean, you can't taste it. So,
yeah.
So yun.
But was the food, like edible food?
Yes, it was super edible and sobrang masarap.
Galing.
So, yes.
Right. Sige. Thanks for sharing those stories of the episodes of Rabid, Shiel. The next set of questions would focus more on your background, no, as a production designer. First of all, how do you go to school to be a production designer? What do you study in school if you want to be a production designer? This is
maybe a little controversial response. No, I mean, for people who are in film, I think even in Hollywood or everywhere else, you have to know. Parang mahirap kasi siya pag if you're coming into film na as a college student. Parang I feel, to me personally, it's best if you already came from elsewhere and before you ended up in film. Kasi honestly, when I actually went to film school, pero it's just a 1-year motion picture parang vocational kind of a course. Pero really what I got from that was just the people that I eventually worked with, meeting the people that I would eventually work with, and just kind of having an environment, playground, where you could do the things that you just really try things out, as opposed to learning actual theory or like this is how you do things, aperture ng camera, whatever. Kasi a lot of it is practically Googleable. But
Right.
for production design, it's a little tricky kasi if you're going, but I would not advise going to film school just if you want to become a production designer. It's no.
Mm,
Most production designers, parang the route really is you go find somewhere na you can be a production assistant, speak to the
mm,
people. Usually, you will start from the bottom as a props man,
right.
and then you rise through the ranks until you can become an art director. And then if you're good enough and if you're able to have your own, um, if you made enough um, good impression from people, and
Mm,
you tell them that, I don't know, I'm willing to be a production designer, and then
right.
you get a project, you get small projects, and then you just build from there. And tricky kasi for
Yeah.
production design is also having gamit.
Right. Right.
Dito
Right.
sa atin.
Yeah. I think that's a sensible answer, to the question. Um, so instead of suggesting for film schools to give more importance to courses like production design, ang 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 option really is, you know consider other fields. If you want to be a production designer, you don't need to go to film school unless you really want to know other
Yeah, I
elements of
mean,
filmmaking. Yeah.
yeah, it would be better if parang if you're going to like visual arts in a different sense, like if you're a painter, kasi it's
Yeah.
parang for production design, it's great if you have other skill sets.
Right.
Um, like I'm always I love working with my staff na ang dami nilang alam. Meron kami, this is he's not actually in art department. This is a guy from camera department, pero he does so many things. Like marunong siya magtahi.
Galing.
Ano to, I think kasama namin din siya sa Rabid pero I think he was on the tech side, as in sa pagdump ng mga bagay. Pero
Mm,
I worked with him before in another project, tapos ano siya sa camera department. Pero on Rabid, kasi I had a sewing machine there. I didn't know how to, lumang sewing machine kasi siya ng lola ko. Tapos parang hindi ko maipasok yung bobbin. Basta hindi ko
yeah.
kasi
Yeah.
kabisado yung machine. And he was the one who actually fixed it. And he was the one telling me, parang, okay, ma'am, ganito yan, ganyan. So he was the one who ended up teaching si Vance how to operate the sewing machine. So, di ba,
Yeah.
it for film, it really works if you have other skill sets other than just, holding a camera.
Right. Um, I looked at your, sorry, filmography, and I noticed that your first, I think, couple of films you worked with Bing Nelyaska.
Yes,
Um, how did you get to know Bing?
film school. Classmates kami ng film
Oh,
school. So, ang ginagawa lang naman nga namin sa film school, kasi parang you make your own short films here and there. So, you help each other out. So, I was her actress for a short film, and then we worked on
right.
things after that.
And then I think it supports your point earlier about um, really the relationships that you build anywhere you go, is as important probably, as the sort of formal skills that you get, especially in your kind of work where you need lots of contacts,
Oo.
for getting things, etc. um, and then I believe it was 2014 when you started working with Eric Mati for Kubot. Was that your first film with him?
Yes.
Yes. So
Um,
how did you get involved in Kubot?
oh, from film school kasi, one of our teachers, si Sir Eman de la Cruz, he was at the time working as the creative head for reality. This was around 2012. At the time, nire-revive pa lang nila Direk Eric ulit yung film arm of their company, kasi they went into advertising.
Mm,
So they were trying to go back into film. So they hired somebody to develop projects for them. So he was our teacher, and sometimes he would pick a few of us and then bring them in to work. So I was lucky to be one of those people. So I was in like brainstorm meetings,
mm,
and I would comment, feedback on stuff, ganyan. Tapos after that, nothing happened. I went freelance for a little bit for like 2013 for a good year. And then middle of the year, I think I got a call from them na parang, oh hey, Shield, parang are you interested in like maybe having a permanent position with us? So I went in for an interview with Rally Entertainment. So they were looking to beef up the creative development side of the company. So they were hiring new people. And so I started working for them from 2013. Pero yun nga, the first film that they did when I was already part of the company was Kubot.
Okay. So your role there was you were the second assistant
Yes.
director, but also you were the creative assistant.
Yes.
How do you differentiate those two roles?
Yeah, I know my filmography is very strange kasi in the company with Derek Eric at least. Kasi he's from the old Bacolod mafia of
Yes.
Derek Peke Galiaga. And how they function is really everybody kind of multitasks. You have
Okay.
to be able to do not just one thing. So si Derek Eric, he's very good at building his team of people he trusts. So ever since he hired me, usually kasi the people who work closely with him and end up doing multiple things. So
Yeah.
as a creative assistant, yung first assistant director namin was also actually his line producer at the time. So kasi since you're always together anyway, it's
Right.
best that you're already working on another project. So parang it builds your skill. Syempre, extra income din yun.
Yeah.
So as a creative assistant, I was still helping with the development of other projects. But then, pag may shoot na si Direk, syempre, pasok ka.
Okay. Just briefly, ano yung papel ulit ng first assistant director and second assistant director?
Okay. Ang assistant director team is usually should be a first assistant director, second assistant director, and then the script continuity person. Usually naliligwak ang second assistant director pag budget.
Yeah. Okay.
Pero kasi medyo magulo yung setup namin with Kubot. There was another assistant director supposedly, pero parang we had a whole just getting the project off the ground was very tricky. So things happened, things didn't pan out. So it ended up being me and the first assistant director, si Camille, being the only people left. Originally, the setup I think was I was second assistant director, Camille was script continuity. Pero I didn't want to do the first assistant director job. I was too not yet. No,
Okay.
this is too soon for me. Because before reality, I was working as a script con. So
Okay.
I was happy to do second assistant work, but then to push me too high up as first assistant director, but not quite. So I had a major anxiety breakdown over that. And luckily, si Camille is very go-getter, strong personality. So she stepped up.
Yeah.
And I stayed as second assistant director, and then I think we got somebody to be script continuity. But I think we ended up having like 3 script continuities throughout the whole project. Kasi it was a very long, very tawag dito, prolonged production for us. I think we ended up shooting for like 50 days.
Wow.
Oo, kadaming hassle yun eh. So the first assistant director is the head of the team. She basically breaks down the whole script, does the schedule, and tumutulong na yung second assistant director for the breakdown side of that. For me and Camille at the time, we had a very good working relationship. Now we would split the departments. Kasi syempre you have to follow up, make sure that the requirements are there. We make sure that people understand what needs to be done. That they understand the directions, the instruction from Direct Eric. So I think we eventually developed the system of, I think she would make sure that the requirements on the camera side, on the more technical side are there. That's how I would take care of production design requirements. So I would be talking to the art director, ito yung requirement natin make sure nyo ganito, ganyan. So, yun. And then syempre yung script con is made for us working with the old school ways of Direk Eric, and coming from working with Direk Teke, yung script con is not somebody who just shows up and takes care of continuity. Part din siya with making, parang pinapasahan din namin siya ng extra, like maybe a smaller department, making sure that people are there. But anyway, so the first assistant on set, that's on pre-prod side. Pero on set, the first assistant director is really the person on the floor, making sure like every take, the person, she's the one who's making the calls. Okay, next ano natin dito tayo, ito yung kailangan niya. So ang job ng second assistant director is behind the scenes on the tents, making saying the instructions from the first assistant director. For instance, if she says, okay, yung next setup natin, ito, kailangan i-ready mo na si Joey Marquez, ganyan. So, punta ka sa tent, kausapin mo yung makeup artist, make sure na ayos na yung makeup niya, talk to the wardrobe, make sure na suot na yung damit, tapos prosthetics kung may kailangan. So, yung scheduling behind the set is the job of the second assistant director.
Really nice. Thanks for that information. Kasi I don't have any background in production, so this information is new to me. Ibig sabihin, let's say a supervising producer, hindi na siya involved sa mga ganong klaseng detalye.
Yung little details of what's happening per minute on set, hindi na. Yung supervising producer is more making sure na yung lahat ng kailangan dumating on the day, dumating.
Okay.
Pero how that rolls over throughout the day, hindi niya na problema yun. Ang tatanungin niya lang at the end of the day, bakit hindi kayo natapos? Or parang, natapos kayo? Good.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. So, kasi nga na-mention mo na part ng trabaho ng second assistant director is to supervise or to coordinate with the production design team. Sa kubot pa lang, na-realize mo na ba na production designing is something you want to do?
Actually, from film school, I would usually be on the production design aspect. Pag group works, I'm usually thrown on the production design aspect. And actually, around the time we were starting production for Kubot, I went to Director Richard Somes'. He conducted the production design workshop. I think it was like an every Friday thing. So I would do that, like after work. I would go and do the workshop under him. So he is what I would consider my mentor for production design. So he was really very generous in teaching us like little tricks and how to manage people, like especially if you're working on an advertising job. This is parang he gave us little tips on parang this is how you deal with people when they keep asking you for multiple options of a single color. Mga ganon.
Galing. Curious lang ako, Shiel, kasi nga na-mention mo kanina yung Ilonggo or Bacolod Mafia nila. Kasi napansin ko rin sa kanila, no, sila Richard Somes and other Hiligay noon or Ilonggo filmmakers, very particular sila sa production design. In general, compared to other directors.
Yes.
What was the reason behind that? Of course, Peque Gallaga, as we all know that he's also like that, no, with his films. Sa tingin mo, it was mainly the influence of Peque, or was it something na unique or parang binibigyan halaga talaga dito sa region na ito?
I can't speak for other Ilonggo filmmakers, but me working with Derek Eric and Derek Richard for less span of time. It's not really just so much that they're particular with production design. They're actually very particular with everything. They're very anal.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the word that Derek Eric would use on himself. Like he's very anal with details, and I guess it just shows more on production design because they're very, because it's the first thing that you see. Pero kasi si Derek Richard, it's pwede kasing maging madali yung trabaho ng production designer. Parang you can just bring the, the nicest color, you bring the nicest clothes, bring the nicest cortina, and it could pass off as a good design.
Right.
Pero, to a more trained eye who would know that, that may not be the best choice for a shoot, for a certain scene. And syempre si Direk Eric and si Direk Richard, and even syempre si Direk Peke, they really look at the film on a broader perspective. So si Direk Richard is very good with character costumes. Like his characters are like, you can imagine them. They're real people. They're not, even, I mean, if you look at On the Job, naka-jacket sila sa Manila, guys. Medyo mainit. Pero I mean, you're not bothered by it because it looks good and it kind of makes sense. Not like kind of makes sense, pero parang it just makes sense for the world.
Right.
So, yun.
When you work with directors, mas preferred mo ba yung, I don't know, yung word na ginamit ko kanina is anal. Ibig ba sabihin nun, do they micromanage to the point na parang wala ka nang say sa gagawin mo?
No naman. At least for my experience with directors, even with pag sa commercials, they would always ask you. They're very collaborative naman kasi syempre they have their own ideas. For instance, if they would say parang gusto ko naka-red siya dyan. Pero if you don't think that's the best choice, then you can always just speak up parang okay naman direct, pero baka mas ganito kasi feeling ko 'di ba, kung for the scene, syempre yung background natin kung may usapan na kayo, especially for color palettes. Syempre minsan the danger is if you're working with very strict color palette na parang okay, gusto ko blues tayo dito sa ganitong teme. Hindi naman pwedeng blue na lahat kayo. So parang, di ba, magiging, unless the intention is to make everything monotone. Pero, di ba, if the background is already blue, you can't put the person in blue also.
Okay. We've come to the end of this really informative interview with you, Shiel. But I want to ask Vincent kung may naisip kang questions for Shiel, Vincent.
Ang naisip ko lang, may question ako tungkol sa prod design mismo itself na yung sa continuity. So
Okay.
may nakita ko sa Matrix, yung unang Matrix na na film. So merong cardboard, parang paulit-ulit sila ng take dun sa cardboard na binabaril. So ina-assume ko na every take may bagong cardboard na nilalagay. So ganun din ba yung sa sayo? Parang may naka-ready ka na ba na mga props if ever na may magkamali?
Yes. Laging problema yan with clothes, food, Yossi.
Wala dun sa HM? Hindi ba yun?
HM sobrang, I had multiple costumes of varying degrees of dirt. Ay, sorry, HM. Sorry, iniisip ko yung Shit Happens. Kunyari, doon muna ako sa Shit Happens. With Shit Happens, actually yun, medyo tricky yun in terms of, para may connect ko na rin sa continuity. We shot that into two different looks yun, di ba, the present and then yung parang dreamlike world kung saan stuck si Becky. Kailangan, syempre, you have to mark the scenes that are, kasi you're shooting not chronologically. So, pwede kang malito na parang, dito sa scene na to, ano ba to? Present ba to or hindi? So, you have to mark those things. Pero, yun nga, in terms of like stuff that are consumable, yes, you always have to have multiple stuff. Kunyari, yun nga sa Shit Happens. I think I had 3 sets of clothes ni Becky na malinis, medyo madumi, tapos yung may tae na and everything na damit. So, ano yung sa HM? Sa HM, yes, multiple na yung in-explain ko kanina about pagtitipid sa pagkain kasi kailangan mo siyang i-refill eh. So pag naubusan ka na ng pang-reset, correct, sorry, magluluto pa kami eh. Hindi naman pwede.
Really interesting. May iba ka pang questions, Vincent?
Yun lang, sir.
All right. Thank you. Sige, the last question probably for you, Shiel, is your siguro I don't know, the outlook for the future. Alam ko right now medyo hirap yung Philippine cinema industry kasi diba, parang limited yung mobility. But how do you foresee the future of production design in film, ha? Kasi iba yung industry, yung TV. Sa film ba sa tingin mo parang babalik, of course pag nakalipas na tayo sa pandemic, magiging kasing ano ba siya, magiging kasing halos established na element ng film na iisipin ng mga future designers na I can actually make a living out of designing for film?
Oof. It's a tricky question. Well, for production design, I know there was an attempt to not unionize, but to gather all the production not unionize nga, but to gather the production designers. Kasi this was the middle of pandemic lockdown ng 2020 na. Guilds were revived, not really.
Right.
I mean, it's not really something that's new to the industry. They were just revived, and hindi naman din ako kasi as yung production designer, credits ko are very scant as opposed to others. So I'm not that established in the guilds and the departments. But from what I know, they've attempted to kind of organize as a group of filmmakers doing production design and parang make it more parang this is how things should be done. This is how we could make it more of a kasi what's ang hirap kasi ng what do you call this? Rising through the ranks in every department. I think there was an attempt na parang yun nga parang to make it easier for people to eventually become a production designer, and not just any production designer, but like a good and a competent one. Na i-try siyang i-organize. Pero as far as parang for other people who are aspiring to become filmmakers, from what I know, production design isn't really the first thing that people think about. It's either you're holding a camera or you direct. Yung writer, medyo ano pa yun, sketchy topic pa siya for other people. But the production design, I don't know how things could change, how things could progress, because generally how people who work in production design discover that they like production design is really they tried it and they liked it and they stuck to it. So I don't know how it can be promoted to people as parang production design. Kasi honestly, even with films, production design shouldn't be something that you notice as parang ganda yung production design.
That's a good point.
It should be something that you don't notice because that's the world of the characters. It's just normal. It feels right. I mean, syempre there are projects na parang it necessitates to make the background stand out, the design to really stand out. Pero in general for film, it should be parang it just makes sense. You don't even notice it.
Galing. Actually, that particular point I've been noticing in our past roundtables with editors, even with performers. Halos ganun yung point nila na parang you shouldn't make it a point to make yourself stand out or you make your work stand out kasi it's part of the whole film, and when the film works, dapat you should take credit for that film success, no, kahit na hindi ostentatious yung ginawa mong work kasi the film works and you were part of that film. Shiel, and anong future projects do you have working on projects right now?
I'm mainly just writing right now. Medyo takot akong bumalik sa set pa Medyo pahinga rin ako with production design. So I'm mainly sticking to writing jobs at the moment.
Nice. So we wish you luck with your career. And again, thanks for gracing us today. Congratulations for your nomination.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.